Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are revisiting a topic that I last dedicated a whole video to about, I think it's almost 11 months or maybe even a year ago. That is, of course, blowout matches. You can tell by the title of this video. So, blowout matches, if you don't know what those are, which means you haven't been playing recently, or you might have experienced it, but you don't know exactly what to call it. It's been called many things: blowout matches, raffle stomps, crushing victories, whatever you want to call it. That's when one side just disgustingly crushes the other side, meaning they may lose a ship or two, if that even. I've seen tier 10 matches where the one side doesn't lose a single ship and absolutely slaughters the other side just into the dirt. Even if the losing side may have the ship advantage in terms of what ships they have, they may have some of the more powerful ships at the moment, they still just get utterly crushed. Like, it's disheartening to witness a lot of times. One good example is that there was a match when I was playing the Immelman. It was my third match in the Immelman when I was recording the footage for the Immelman review. I didn't show it because the match ended in like 6 minutes. And the team that I was on, and I'm not dunking on them or anything, and again, it can just be the way matchmaking lined us up. I could have just been with a lot of more average players, and the enemy team could have had a lot more unicoms on their side, which is honestly probably what happened. But they couldn't secure the kill on a 200 HP Austin. Now, you're probably thinking, well, why didn't you just go in there with your Immelman and kill him? You're talking about me, a terrible CV player, going after an Austin, which has the best AA in the game. And to answer your question, I did go after him several times. That's how we got him down to 300 HP. But of course, he has that improved heal. If you don't dogpile on him once you get him down that low, he's going to pop his heal and he'll be back at like, sure, I think it can heal back up to like 15k a pop because it's got that improved American BB heal. So yeah, that's the type of teams I was dealing with just recording the Immelman review, and I did mention that there was a little bit in the Immelman review. But situations like that, well, your team just can't seem to get it together for anything, for any reason. And the match is essentially over by around the 5 or 6 minute mark. That's a true mark of a blowout match. Now, what I mean by the match is essentially over by the 6 minute mark, I'm noticing a lot of times by the 5 or 6 minute mark, where a few years ago the battle would just really be getting into it, it's already over. Like the match you're watching right now, I'm not sure from what point I started the clip in, but you'll notice by around the 5, 6, 7 minute mark, all of our DDs are dead. So we have no spotting, and I don't think this was a CV game. I just say I don't think this was a CV game because we had no spotting out in the west except for when the Noveski would pop his radar. So guess what? Your team's blind now, and the cruisers are sitting in the back. Most of the team is sitting in the back, so we can't see anything. And the only reason we didn't end this match with just 2 of the enemy ships killed is because I'm hyper aggressive in the GK to a fault. And you'll see what happened here. Now, I'm not saying that just to like put down the rest of the team. I'm just saying I'm hyper aggressive in the GK, and in this situation, when the enemy team's crushing you, you can throw yourself at the team and probably get a kill or 2 before you go down, which is the best thing to do in this situation because, I mean, it's either sit in the back and slowly get burned out or just charge in and do what damage you can before you go down. That's any advice I'd give to any German battleship player. Now, don't do it when you can still probably win the game, but when you're this far behind, I mean, what you got to lose in random battles? But anyway, that's what this match is like. And again, we would have lost just with 2 ships on the enemy team sunk if something wasn't done. So, like, that's a loss right there by the 6 minute mark. That's what I mean. Like, the game may go on. You know, there may be this CV that's going to hide in J1 or A10 for the next 20 minutes, or the one DD that's going to, run around the map and try to hide for the next 15 or 20 minutes, but the game's essentially lost by that point. Now, of course, there are the situations to where your team can eke out a victory from a situation like that. And true, that's very true. That's something that some people would say. But in the past week of me playing, and this is myself playing in the summer. I'm a teacher, so I don't work in the summer for 2 months. I've had 3 matches like that where we've come from behind and managed to be the underdogs and secure a victory, and it was freaking great. It felt great. It's like, yeah, guys, we managed to do that. We managed to pull back from the cliff of defeat and pull out a victory. That's only 3 times in the hundreds of battles that I play in a week during the summer. Like, I'm doing this almost full time this summer. I get up in the morning if I don't have any plans that day with my family or whatever. I get up in the morning, start making videos, start playing the game and such. And then we've had 3 victories like that in the past week or so. I can tell you, we certainly had more matches like that a year ago. I'd say even 10 months ago. That was more likely to happen back then than it is today. Today, if half of your team's dead by the 6-minute mark, you're probably going to lose. I'm not saying it's completely hopeless, but you're probably looking at a blowout match rather than a come from behind. And I'm not saying at that point you should give up and just throw your ship away. No, of course, still keep fighting because you don't know what's going to happen in the match. But it just certainly feels like that's the situation that we're in now. So what is causing this increase at this point? Well, I know a group of players are just going to say, it's an online game, deal with it. It's what happens in online games. Sure. Blowout matches happen in any online game regardless of what it is. It's the nature of random matchmaking. And skill-based matchmakers too, this happens too. Like Ranked. Ranked is supposed to be skill-based. But look at some of the things that you run into in Ranked, even at like higher tier Ranked. In like Gold League, there are players that have no idea what they're doing. And they're somehow in Gold League and they make just incredible decisions sometimes. It's like, yeah, how'd you get here, buddy? But yeah, we've all been in that situation. But anyway, back to the other online games. This is the summer. I'm a teacher. I have got the summer off for 8 weeks of peace and bliss, playing World of Warships. As much peace and bliss as you can get out of that. But I haven't just been playing World of Warships. I've been playing a lot of other games now that I have more time to do that. Been playing games like Battlefield 5. Been playing games like Enlisted, Battlefield 4. War Thunder, of course, a lot more now. Online games, online multiplayer games. I can tell you what, World of Warships is the only one where I feel like I could go on a 16-game utter crushing defeat loss streak and not get 1 or 2 games in between. They're at least either a close loss or a close win. It's the only game that's happened in. And I know a lot of players are going to say, wait, hold up a second, World of Warships is a very small game. You've only got, in the North American server, about 14,000 players daily. Sure, that's certainly a good argument. It's a smaller game with a smaller audience size, so therefore you have less people to pull from, so there's not as much variety in the players. Well, tell that to Battlefield 5 that up until the release of the 2042 player had like a 4,000 player concurrent count. It's up to like 8,000 now because of the 2042 trailer. Or tell that to Battlefield 4, where like when I made that Battlefield 4 video, I think it was like a few weeks before 2042 or the next Battlefield even got announced, and there was 2 servers to choose from. One server was in Korean, the other server was a hardcore server, and even in that, with like just that same group of 64 players, we had a really good back and forth between the 2 teams. But of course, that's of course a very small player account there. But even in something like War Thunder, that's very, very, very much skill based in its ground forces and its aerial combat. I've never seen just a constant stream of utter defeats over and over and over and over again. And again, we're talking about 16 game streaks where I'm just like, this is going to go on for like 3 hours though. I'm tired of losing this bad. I'm going to do something else now. And you guys have heard me comment on it pretty much, I think, in almost every video this week. Like, hey guys, I'm sorry the background footage isn't that interesting. It's just that this is what happened. I played for 3 hours and the best game I got's like 98,000 damage and like 1 kill. I don't know what's going on. But I do have some inklings as to what may actually be causing this. So back to World of Warships. So I think one thing that may be doing this is the amount of gimmicks being introduced now. Gimmicks. And what is a gimmick? A gimmick in my book is something that's absurdly unique to one nation or to one line or to one ship. The ship's kind of built around it. Now, there's a fine line between a ship's characteristics and a gimmick. So let's look at the German battleships, for example. Their characteristic is that they've got good armor, great secondaries, and normally smaller caliber guns for their tier, but decent reload times for their tier. The only one that breaks that rule is kind of like the GK, because you can get the, well, I would say by now, with all the ships we have at tier 10, the 16-inch guns of the GK are considered small caliber at tier 10. So that's their characteristics. Great armor, they're large ships, great secondaries, inaccurate guns, but decent reload time on their guns. What's a gimmick? What's an example of a gimmick? An example of a gimmick would be like reload booster. That's a gimmick. Unlike the Jean Bar. Okay, you got accurate guns, but you got a reload booster for those small guns at tier 9. Or like, well, the upcoming Dutch cruisers are a great example of that. That airstrike consumable is a huge gimmick. Or we could go with the Italian battleships. That exhaust smoke generators is a gimmick. We're getting more and more lines that are very gimmicky and promote one type of gameplay or gameplay style over the others. Or like the Polo Emilio, that whole ship's a gimmick. It's just a torpedo delivery system. And I think that's kind of hurting the game in terms of gameplay. Because these ships are so gimmicky that they have to be played this very certain way, to where not necessarily being tactical is the best thing to do for them. Now, you can argue that they're not terrible for the game. Like, sure, the Polo Emilio, it's a meme, it's very gimmicky, but you can use it to tactically take out, you know, a battleship or an aircraft carrier that isn't paying attention. That will certainly help your team, but as you guys have seen on my stream, it's not exactly profit every time. But again, I'm not the best DD player. Or like with the Dutch cruisers upcoming. Sure, the idea behind the airstrike, I forgot what the thing was called for a second. Like I said before, it's, I think, a solid idea. Adding in some type of mechanic or instrument, consumable, to discourage players from island camping the entire match, I think it's a good idea, but the way it's being introduced is a bit too much, in my opinion. So I think that may have something to do with it too. And I'm not saying, you know, super gimmicky ships are terrible in and of themselves. I think that's just one factor contributing to it. You know, I don't think the Polo Emilio's wrecking the game, or I don't think the Dutch cruisers are going to wreck the game when they come out. But they're certainly contributing to it because of some other factors going on, like the ease of grinding to higher tier, and also like the continued, just, I don't know. I don't know what you would call it. There's the fixing of things that aren't broken, like the commander skill system. Like, I get that submarines are coming out, and you gotta add in submarine skills. You gotta add in skills to help counter submarines, but you didn't have to go redesign the whole commander skill system just for that. You could have added in another tab for submarines. They've added in new commander skills before in the past without reworking the whole system. You see what I'm saying? Things like that. Just unnecessary changes that keep coming to the game. So like with the commander rework, it's like, okay, now in order to have a maximum point commander, I gotta grind out to 21 commander points. Well, I can't grind out 21 commander points without doing a little bit of farming on the side. And of course, farming, which is when you just sit back and try to farm as much damage as you can, which is of course the easiest way besides getting cap points to earn XP in the game or in a match, isn't necessarily a very aggressive playstyle. And we get situations where teams just sit in the back and will let the enemy team just cap all the caps and won't do anything about it. Another thing too is, speaking of gimmicky ships, I just thought about this when I was bringing the subject up, is of course the continued increase in HE spam. Now, of course, you know, figure Battleship Man talk about HE spam, like, look, come on. Sit there and tell me that the number of HE spammy ships hasn't gone up over the past year. Like, through the roof. Now, the IFHE changes, of course, I think were pretty good changes that helped cut back on that a lot. And like I said before, the Smallness, I think, is a much more balanced ship nowadays than it was back in the day. It's in a much better place in terms of balance. You can't have a 19-kilometer Smolensk outranging some Tier 8 and Tier 9 battleships with its HE spam from, again, outside of the range of a battleship's guns. I think that's just a little bit ridiculous now. But of course, it gets replaced by a ship that can even do it even better. Like I was laughing about, speaking about gimmicks, the Alston. And there's continued to be no type of rework to the way that HE interacts with with battleships, even though, again, the amount of HE spamming ships has gone through the roof recently. And again, I think the simplest thing to do would be to introduce the damage saturation mechanic to the HE mechanic, to the fire mechanics at least. You know, your battle's been burnt, it's burnt. Try to light a fire log after it's been burnt. It's pretty hard to do. You can do it, but fire's not going to burn for near as hot as it was the original time. And that hasn't gone up. So again, why in my battleship would I want to push when there's a Worcester, an Austin, Harugamo, and one of the other more HE spammy ships just sitting there just waiting for me to make a move so they can farm my damage for my team to sit in the back. Now, I'll gladly push in if I think I'm going to take a ship or two with me or my team wants to push. I'll gladly do it because I understand that's how you win games. But the average battleship player who's tired of pushing in and just becoming just a Viking funeral for himself while his team sits in the back and doesn't do anything, you got to convince that guy to push. And introducing more and more of these HE spammy ships isn't going to convince that guy to get in there. And of course, there's multiple different ways you could solve this problem. Like, plenty of you guys offered up some pretty good solutions, like adding in some type of special damage con skill or talent or module that helps combat fires a little bit more. But again, this in and of itself isn't just the one thing causing blowout matches. It's another factor that hasn't been dealt with that's causing these matches. So those are a couple more ideas or thoughts that I've come up with just looking back at the last 10 months or so in game development and looking over the last couple of patches as to what's happened and why, in my mind at least, it seems that these games are happening more. So let me know what you guys think down below. What has your experience been recently? Have you had more blowout matches? Have you had less? And keep in mind too, when you win and your team's only lost one ship and the enemy team's completely dead, that's still a blowout match. You're just on the other side of it too. And these are matches where if you're a stats person, it's terrible for your stats because the match ends in like 8 minutes and it's like, oh no, my average damage in this ship is like 100k, but I did 20k damage this match. I'm not much one for stats, but if you are, God, it's a terrible time for you right now because good luck trying to save your PR in this climate. But anyway, guys, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What has your experience of the last 10 months been? Has it been more? Has it been less? Am I just crazy? Or does matchmaking just hate me and just is sending me on this journey by myself? But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Thursday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.